Hey everybody, Cheryl, lead Off Leash K9 Training. I just got a Facebook message asking me a question, and I thought I'd make a little video because it might help other people. The question was, how do I teach my dog to heel without an e-collar? So first off, I never teach dogs anything with an e-collar. I teach them everything they need to know first, and then I layer on the e-collar and teach them what that e-collar stimulation means in relationship to something they already know, whatever command it might be. Also, I've been working with dogs my whole life and never used e-collars in the past before I started doing dog training professionally or training collars, really. I just used my energy, the leash, and food. So I'm going to show you what I do with dogs to teach them how to heel or loose leash walk. I prefer using prong collars now that I've started working professionally. My dog's never really been on a prong collar, because I did those other things with leadership, leash pressure. I just had a lot more time to work with him, but I find a prong collar is an amazing, subtle tool. So I actually have her on the prong collar now. So if you're okay with using a prong collar and you don't have to yank and crank on them, it's a really gentle tool if you use it correctly, and you can look at videos of how to introduce it in my playlist on YouTube. But I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to go to a flat collar. One thing to note is when I use a prong collar, I don't stay on it forever. I use it to teach leash communication. It's really subtle. It's a super effective tool. You don't have to yank and crank, like I said, and you can be really precise with your timing and your pressure of on and your pressure of release to really tell them what they should be doing. Also, food helps. Reward when they're doing something well. One last thing, too, is with the prong collar, I don't stay on it forever. Like I said, I get off of it. I use it as I call it a bridge from teaching what the command is and what this leash work means, and then I go back to their flat collar or an e-collar if they happen to be doing off-leash work. So here's how I do it. It's really simple. Prong collar, dogs back there, little pressure, dogs with me. Little pressure, dogs with me. Anytime you see my hand going up or down, you're going to see pressure on or off. She's been learning a little bit of this with me. Good girl. She really wants that stick. So the prong collar teaches the dog just to follow with you. If she were to get ahead, I'd put her back like that. Pull her head back and get her behind me. I also do a lot of, when I'm with the dog, little pops like that. Really gentle. And I keep her behind me. I want her behind me. That's my heel. I want the dog behind me. So you'll see a lot of wrist flicks going on. So I don't want this much slack, right? This is not what I want. I want the leash set up to be, trying to keep my sleeve up so you can see my wrist, just so there's, I'll let her scratch, just so there's like an inch or two of slack. That's all she needs. If I have a bunch of slack, then I'm trying to use my arm to guide her, whereas that's not what we're doing. Come on, that's enough. We're not going to have any more. So I just want relaxed leash, but then only like what, 1 inch, 2 inch? And you can see my fingers doing the work. I prefer to have the leash coming out, like the part that goes to the pressure coming out the back of my hand, not the front, not like this, but like this. And that way I can do little leash flicks. Subtle, really gentle. Like that. That was a good one. A little pop, pop, pop. And she comes. I can do the same thing with the sit. Sit, little pressure. She sits, good girl. And add some food to the mix if you want. She doesn't want it. She already had her breakfast. I don't blame her. And so when you get a dog that doesn't want to eat, this is a really great tool. Heel. So I don't add the word until she's doing this. Once she's doing, mostly following me with a tiny bit of leash pressure there on the turns. Tiny bit here, and once she's just following me, a little bit there when I turn again, I might start calling it a heel. Otherwise, this is doing the communication. So let's say you didn't want to use a prong collar. You could go to the flat collar. It's a lot more work. A flat collar you kind of got to yank and crank on, especially if they don't want food. So let me find her buckle for the flat collar. But once I've taught her, which I have, what the subtleties of leash work is with the prong collar, it's going to transfer to this flat collar. So now she's on this pink one. And I can do the same thing because she knows what that means. I might have to use more pressure, a little bit more. Definitely a little more. Sit. Good. But it's the same thing. If a dog were to get ahead of me, sometimes I use my foot and I move them back. So these are all tricks you can do to get your dog walking nicely. Practice it where there's no distractions. Don't do it day one on the bike path with 80 dogs. Do it in your house. Do it in your yard. Then take them out. Keep a distance from things that are distracting. Like a kid with candy in front of their face. This is a dog with a dog in front of their face. They're like, I gotta have that. Whereas with the kid with the candy put away into the cupboard, they kind of know it's there, but it's not really right in front of their face. So tempting. Same thing with the dog. Use space to get away from other dogs so your dog's not so wanting to break that heel. So set them up for success. Practice where there's not a lot of distractions. Don't call it heel anything. Let the leash and training collar, if you choose to use a prong collar or a slip lead, let that do the communication at first. Once they're following you and not pulling ahead anymore, then start calling it a heel right before you add the pressure. So I hope this helps the person that asked, and I hope it helps anybody else out there. And just a little FYI, if you do ask me a Facebook message or a message, I'm probably not going to make a special video, but I thought this one might be a good one to share. Thanks everybody at Cheryl and Deanna, lead Off Leash K9 Training. Bye!